This is the Masters Athletic Sweet Spot training tool. Now, we've seen a couple of these. We actually have one with us, the Tolson Sweet Spot Racquet that we used in prior videos and that we have personally used. But with this one on the market right now, it makes us wonder, does this fit right in with the competition? What's up, Tweeners? Welcome back to another Tweener tennis video today here on the channel. And today we are going to be talking about the Sweet Spot rackets that are on the market currently. Now, we already mentioned that we are talking about the Masters Athletic brand. And for those of you that may not know the brand, it is a platform tennis, or some people like to call it paddle. It's a paddle specific brand that make winter paddles. They haven't really stepped into the tennis world yet, but they are currently making rackets, Sweet Spot rackets, and are slowly but surely getting into the tennis equipment world. After we found out that we were getting one of these at our club, I decided to make a video on it because I wanted to show you what this one has to offer compared to the others on the market. We all know this Tolson one, the Sweet Spot racket that weighs around 320 grams. It is on the heavier side, and obviously the functional tennis saber. Everyone that plays tennis and is deep into the tennis world knows about this racket. We all know what functional tennis is, the popular social media group, and right now it's probably the most popular out of these three options when it comes to training tennis tools. Later you'll see some more match play with our friend Liam. You're gonna see how hard it is to hit with this racket. Now, to get into the more specifics, if we start with the one that we already know, the Tolson Sweet Spot racket, 320 grams. To be honest, this one, compared to a normal size racket, is in the middle of the center of the strings. Compared to a normal racket, this part, the head, is directly in the middle of the head of the racket. Now, there are other versions out on it as well. There's a 280 version and there's a junior version on the market that Tolson does sell on its website. Comparing that to the other ones, this one does provide a bigger head, so it almost is like playing with a full-size tennis racket but with a junior-sized head. Now, that makes it very different compared to the other two because of how big its head really is. So it does provide the sweet spot for it, but at the same time, it does have a lot more forgiveness when you are using it. The saber. This was very popular. You've probably seen on Instagram and on social media that pro players are actually using this, and while it does have three versions of its own, the original, the light, and the junior, which is for kids from 6 to 10 years old, this one seems to be the most popular one on the market, or the most brand recognizable one, I would say, when it comes to training tools and tennis rackets. I loved using this one. I got to play with it for the first time earlier this summer, and I absolutely loved it. You actually could put some spin on it like the Tolson Sweet Spot racket, but it does make it more challenging when you do hit it. It does have a lot more forgiveness, but at the same time, that's not really what this is made for. This racket is made to help you make that sweet spot, hit the ball in the center of your strings, and allow you to still hit with it. You can't play a match with this, but you probably could play a match with the Tolson racket. The Masters racket has two versions of it. It has the TR-40 and the TR-40 Lite. One of us, when I was hitting with Liam, popped the string, so that's what I mean. If you do have a chance to use these, any of these for that matter, definitely look into restringing it with something a little bit more durable, but not a poly. Something that'll last longer, because you're not going to be using this the whole time during a training session. Both of these have the same grip size. Most of them have the same grip size because it has to be universal to anyone that is using it. But one thing I do like about the Masters these Sweet Spot rackets is the customization part of it on the butt cap. The butt cap does allow additional weight that they do sell separately to put on the bottom. So if you do want to add a bit more weight to resemble your racket itself, you do have that opportunity to do it as well. And if we are talking about training tools, the original giant spoon video that came out years ago on social media and took social media by storm in the tennis world was the original. It was the original kind of saber idea when it came to using a Sweet Spot racket. Now, while using all three of these, if we were to order them in easiest to use to the most difficult and hardest to find that sweet spot, I would say the Tolson comes in as the easiest one to use when it comes to a sweet spot racket. I think it is the best one for a lot of people when it comes to having a bit of a bigger head, a bigger string pattern, and allowing everyone to use it. Would I recommend using the 320? Probably not. I wouldn't recommend that one because it is definitely on the heavier side. And if you are teaching and they definitely use a lighter racket, I would definitely advise getting the 280 version. I would then say the Sabre comes in at a second because you still can put shape on the ball. And if you are a higher level player, you still can find the sweet spot and add more pace on the ball, more spin, which it allows you to hit the ball with the way you would normally hit your ball and strike the ball with your own style and technique on it. This racket is the definition of a sweet spot racket. The definition of a sweet spot racket. And the reason why I say the definition of it is because that racket is so hard to hit consistently. And if you aren't making solid contact upon hitting it, it is probably the hardest one we've ever tried. That's definitely not a bad thing when you think about it, because for this, you really have to hit it in the center. And what's funny is that the Sabre and the Masters racket both are on the, if you put them on top of a regular racket, say my VCore 97, even though it's one of the older models, the sweet spot on these rackets is a little bit higher on the racket because recently they found that the sweet spot of your racket is not directly in the center. It's more on the upper half of the frame of the racket, which is interesting to find out because when you put the Sabre and Masters one up against it, it is on that upper half compared to the Tolson, which is the complete middle of the racket. Honestly, the Masters racket, this sweet spot racket that Masters Athletics is offering is probably the toughest ones to use and probably the most, I wouldn't say the most useful, but definitely holds up to the name of having a sweet spot racket because you really do have to hit it in the center of your strings. If you don't, you're shaking that everywhere. And if you follow us on social media, you've seen Liam hit this serve and it is gone off the frame. If you guys have used these types of rackets, let us know down in the comments below and what other types of training tools in terms of rackets and contact you have used in the past and which one of these have you used or have heard of. We would love to find out, so leave a comment, leave a like, and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Over 80% of you that are watching this video right now aren't subscribed to the channel, so make sure you guys are subscribed. We would love to hit 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year, maybe even 6,000 if we get to that 5K mark early, but we would love to have you guys along for the Tweener Head Tennis journey. So leave a like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks, guys.